The report builder allows sophisticated reports to be constructed by assembling them from multiple sub-reports using the Composite report template. You can even include composite reports within other composite reports to achieve the desired result. I'm going to build a report that for each device in a view will display a chart of the CPU and memory utilization over time, along with a tabular presentation of the mean and maximum values of the CPU utilization, and the manufacturer, model, version, and serial number. For each device there will also be a separate chart showing the in- and outbound utilization for each port that's operationally enabled. This requirement implies that some of the charts contain device-level metrics and others contain information relating to ports. The basic report templates that can display details of multiple components all require that all of them are of the same type, so devices and ports can't be intermixed. The Composite report template allows reports based on different component types to be combined, and that's why I'll be using it in this example. Let me show you the two basic reports that I've already built for this purpose. The first report uses the multi-chart and table template and lists all of the devices in a view and displays the required device-level metrics in both chart and tabular formats. Each device is clearly identified by name in the chart title. The second report also uses the multi-chart and table template and lists all the operationally enabled ports in a view, and displays their in- and outbound utilization in the form of a chart per port, but this time without any corresponding tabular information. There's a separate tutorial covering how these basic reports were built for this purpose. Now it's time to combine both these basic reports into the final composite report. The report builder is accessed from the main menu Reports page. And from here, I'll select the Composite report template. I'll add the device level report as the first subreport using the Add Subreport button. To define which subreport will be used, I'll click the value in the subreport column. This dialog lists all the reports in the user-defined reports folder, and I'll choose the previously built device metrics report. The setting in the repetition column controls whether this subreport will be displayed just once for the whole report or repeated once per component in the report. We'll need it repeated for each and every device, so I'll leave it set to the default repeat setting. The alignment setting allows you to control whether subreports are placed side by side or one above the other, and I'll leave it in the vertical mode. The position setting affects whether the subreports go in the title band up at the top, the details band in the middle, or the summary band at the end of the report. However, repeated subreports must go in the details band, and others cannot. So, in practice, it defines their relative positions to each other within the band. I'll also leave the space allocated for this report to be automatically calculated, rather than fixing it to a predefined value. With this one subreport installed, I can go ahead and select a view, having chosen to ignore the selection, and preview the result. There are two devices in this view, and they're both being displayed both with their chart and with their table. Now it's time to add the port utilization charts subreport. Again, I'll use the Add Subreport button. And this time select the previously built port report. If I were to preview the report at this stage, it would display an error. This would be because the composite report, which is based on devices, would be passing the ID of a device to the port report, and that one is configured to work with ports. What the subreport really needs is a list of ports belonging to the device. There are a few steps needed to configure this mechanism. One of the underlying mechanisms that I've not shown you was how the identity of the component or components to be included in the report are passed to it using a hidden parameter. When I check the Show Advanced Options control, another part of the composite report template called the Hidden Property Fields is revealed. If there are no hidden properties listed, you're going to need to add one as follows. I'm going to select the None hyperlink from the Value column, hit the Find Attributes button, expand Types, Device and Attributes, and then explicitly select Stormworks ID. That then needs selecting before you hit OK. I'm going to create another one to allow us to compute the list of ports for each device. I'll use the Add Property button and then click where it says None. And that's the default in the Value column. This brings up the Static Attribute Selection dialog that allows me to define my own attribute. To do that, I'm going to use the Define Attribute button, and then I'm going to make up a name for it by calling it Port Server Object IDs. The expression will be written using the Stormworks statement language. I've prepared it already and can paste it in. This is how it works. The script is called in the context of a device. The ref ports statement returns a list of all of the ports associated with the current device. Then, using the server object ID string function, this list is then turned into a list where each comma-separated entry contains the ID of the entity's server on which the device is being managed and the ID of the port, with a colon separating the two IDs. This allows it to fully work in a multi-server installation. Having defined the new attribute, I'll select it before clicking OK. Just creating the new property alone doesn't cause it to be passed to any of the subreports. That's where this control in the Parameters column comes into play. It's currently showing that it is passing all the default parameter values to the subreport, and I'll need to change that. The Server Object IDs parameter, which holds the list of component IDs for the subreport to process, will need to be modified to hold the property that I've just defined. This will require it to be represented as a field, and I'll enter the name of my newly defined property, which was Port Server Object IDs. Although that parameter contains a list of all the ports on the current device, including those that are operationally disabled, the subreport was configured to filter them out, so only charts for the operationally enabled ports will be displayed. Now let's take another preview of the report. Here's the first device chart with its table, and below it are charts for each of the operationally enabled ports on it. I'll move to the next page, and you'll see another chart for yet another port, and here are some more. And then we move on to the second device. Here's its chart, here's its table, and then we've got more charts underneath, each one representing a port. The idea of combining multiple subreports into a higher level report can be taken to yet another level if you build subreports by combining other subreports together. The main point to remember would be that when placing subreports side by side, their combined widths, which are defined when you build a subreport, must not exceed the width allocated in the final report.